Welcome to the Front Seat Life podcast. This is Jessica Butts, your host and CEO and creator of Front Seat Life, where I help you be unapologetically who you are in your life, love, and business. All right, everybody. Welcome, Front Seat Lifers. It is Jessica Butts, your host. And as always, I am delighted to be here. And I think, as always, I'm just keeping it real. So today I have my really, really dear, beloved friend, Jeni Dahn, with me. So hello, Jeni.
Hello, hello, hello.
So she is doing this kind of on the fly. We are dear, dear friends, and we make an excellent point of getting together at least monthly. And now it's a little more than that because she and I have a walk date once a month. And then we also have a girls club that we get together with monthly. So now we get to do it twice monthly, which is awesome. We're also Marco Polo friends. So we're up in each other's business nonstop. So she came over for girls' night on Thursday night. And we ended up having this, I don't know any other way to describe it, incredibly thought-provoking, fairly epic conversation about something that has been on my mind for a couple of weeks. And so very last minute, Jeni, of course, said, what can I do to make this happen? I love you. Let's have this conversation. Because you also believe strongly in what we're going to talk about.
Definitely.
And I'm not even sure I have a name for it, which is not very helpful because my podcast producer is going to ask me for a name for this title and I'll have to come up with something. But the idea was, and I brought this up with the girls on Thursday night, which was this idea of giving away your power. And we, of course, very thoughtful, heart-centric women started kind of going down this rabbit hole of what do you mean? What does that mean? And it solidified what was going on in my mind. So I'm going to back up a little bit. And then, of course, the reason I wanted to have Jeni here is because she's like the queen of what I'm about to say, which is we live in an insanely busy society right now. There is all the stuff. And this is going to be extremely counterintuitive. I get what I'm about to say is extremely counterintuitive. There's too many podcasts. As you're listening to a podcast, I'm telling you, there's too many. There's too much noise. There's too many Instagrammers. There's too many people trying to tell you who to be, what to do, how to do it right. And I believe we have gotten inundated right now with other people's opinions. And the problem is so let me, before I say the problem, I believe both of these things can exist. So I'm a coach and you're a healer. And if we would be out of a job if you only did one or the other. However, what I think is happening is we're getting rid of two things. And the thing that we're getting rid of is trusting your own intuition. And Jeni, we're on Zoom right now and she's pointing at me like, yes, sister. We have gotten away. Lots of us have gotten away from getting quiet, asking God and the universe to bring us messages. So I have recently discovered, just by looking at the past, I'm going to be very transparent. I never used to listen to podcasts. You still don't.
I don't.
Yeah, you still don't. I never listened. In fact, the only person I would ever listen to was my current coach. Whoever I was working with at the time, I was an A+ student. I was totally on board with what they would say if I trusted them, and I would do what they told me to do. But that was it. And then I would sit and I would pray and I would ask the universe and I would get quiet, and I doubled my income 3 years in a row. Then I started listening to all the hype, doing the conferences and listening to this person and this person says this and, oh, I don't know about this, and list all the stuff, some of even naysayers, if I'm being honest, like some naysayers, and it has stunted my growth tremendously. So Jeni, talk to us a little bit about your perspective on getting quiet and the power of getting quiet. And I guess before we even do that, I assume everybody knows who the hell you are, but tell us who you are. Like, people don't know. I'm assuming people know who you are. So not only are you one of my best friends, you are what? Tell us what you are.
I guess I perceive myself as the spiritual mentor, energetic healer. That's the baseline of how my business was born, is listening to my intuition. And really learning to trust that, because that's the work that I do every time I work with a client. And so what really happened for me is I developed this relationship with my silence first, with that intuitive voice first. And then as I started stepping into the business world, the entrepreneurial world, everybody said, well, you need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this. And what I remember very clearly, Jess, is how do I trust this voice when I'm working with a client, but I don't trust it in my marketing or building my business? And so this was the dilemma I had. And I chose out of the gate, well, if I trust this voice here, then I need to also trust that voice in building my practice. Yeah. Right? And so I started there, and I understand that that is odd and that is rare, but it also is in alignment with the work that I do. Yep. What I've noticed today is we have this incredible world of knowledge at the tip of our fingers, yep, coming from every direction. Yet there's a con to that. And that con is we start sourcing outside of ourselves versus inside of ourselves. And so like you did when you worked with your coach and you did listen to that podcast, you listened, but then you also took that information back and you sat with yourself to see what felt right and true for you. Yes, and I can almost guarantee, because I know you well enough, that you did not do everything those coaches told you to do.
Yep, true.
Because it didn't resonate with you. Yep. You cherry picked and you took the piece that was true for you and listened to that internal voice and did that part of it.
Yep. That is so true. And I still try to do that. And again, I think I'm a little bit, better and probably further along than some people. But this is what I see right now. And this is going to be a little bit of a dig on somebody I love very, very much. I mean, I don't even know her, but Rachel Hollis. I respect her. I think she's doing great things in the world. She has good intentions. Her and her husband have a live every single morning. And people listen to that like it's religion in a way. And again, I get that it's uplifting. I get that it's motivating, but that's why there's two sides of this, is that there are inspirational. I mean, again, I'm a coach. Like, I think people need to listen to me because I have guidance on how to do things. I also inspire people. I have education and knowledge that people need. And where has the part of getting quiet and listening to our own intuition and trusting that God, the universe, whatever you believe in, will provide? That is the part that I see going away as things get noisier and noisier and noisier. And you're nodding your head, so you agree.
Totally. We live in such a noisy world. We are inundated. TV, radio. We walk around with these phones that we have on around us all the time that most people can't put down. And you can have a book, you can have Instagram stories, you can have podcasts. It's at the tip of your fingertips all the time. Yeah. And yet what's interesting and is a fact is you cannot hear your intuition unless you can silence the mind.
Say that again, because it's real important.
It's really important. You cannot hear your own intuition unless you're able to silence your mind.
boom, boom, boom. I'm doing like, I'm raising the roof with my hands on a podcast. You can't see what I'm doing right now, but I'm like, yes, preach it, sister, preach it, sister. So I want to back that up with Elizabeth Gilbert. I talk about this book all the time, Big Magic. In that book, there's one little chapter, and I love this chapter so much. I remember where I was when I was reading this. I was at my mom's house in Scottsdale, Arizona, and it was one of those moments where I went, hell yes! Like I said it out loud when I was reading that book. I was at her old folks' home, and I was like, yes to this. And she talks about the butterfly idea, that ideas are like butterflies, hence intuition, getting quiet, whatever. She says, if you are busy, so you might imagine right now, your hands flying in front of your face, chaos, 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 right? This is how most people live. Chaos. The Insta stories and this, and it's noisy, and the fucking TV is on in the background, and your kids are screaming, and you got this, and you're running out the door, and you are constantly reactive. If you have that chaos going on, that she talks about it like being a butterfly. That butterfly cannot land on you when you're flailing your hands all around. So for those visual learners like I am, the visual of kind of what Jeni's talking about is, if you do not silence yourself, if you do not calm down and get quiet, those ideas, your intuition cannot be activated. And again, I'm hoping that we're describing this in a way that people can actually get it, and it's like tangible to them. Because for anybody who wants to do anything, that they want to start a business, they want to have a better relationship, they want to be a better parent, like whatever the thing is, you're a homesteader right now, if you want to get chickens and have eggs, whatever you want to do, it's like you can read all the books, but again, if you don't slow down and listen to how, and I hope you can educate us on this, how the universe can speak to you when you get silence, we are losing, I think, half of our power.
I would say more than that. I would say more than that. And what I love about what you did is you did because we're on Zoom and I can see her, she's waving her hands all around her head. And she's showing you the chaos that's in our lives. Yet, I want you to also take that picture and take it inside the brain on the 10 or 20 or 30 conversations you're having all the time about what's happening. Because although, let's say you have a morning practice and you're sitting in your chair and you think you're being quiet because you don't have the radio on and you're not listening to a podcast, yet you're having 10 conversations inside your head about what's going on with the day, or you're rehashing what happened last night with your partner, or you're planning the event from a month from now. That is still noise. And you will not be able to hear yourself. And so when I think of silence, it's a practice that needs to be cultivated. And we start just externally. Turn off the radio, turn off the TV, put down the phone, right? Sit, go for a walk, maybe do some yoga movements. Start externally in quieting your space. But then we also have to begin internally.
Okay, tell us about this.
One of the ways that I practice that, and I believe it still works, is find a word or a phrase that I can give my mind to focus on to stop the 10 conversations that are in my head. And so the first time I ever did this, and oh my God, this was like 20 some years ago, but my phrase was, I am peace. This morning, I used, I am love. Or it could be love, love, love. So I begin to chant inside my head, not externally. But what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to hone all those conversations into one, so that I can begin to cultivate a practice. Now, some might say, well, you still have noise in your head. Yes, But I took it from 10 voices to one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm saying a phrase that I want to happen in my life. I'm saying a phrase that I want to cultivate internally to be expressed externally. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. So I begin there. And the more you do that, you will notice one day you will sit and you won't need to do that. And yet there'll be nothing going on for a moment.
Isn't this what excellent or famous, I don't know the right word for it, meditation experts talk about? They say you're never, ever going to be clear of thoughts. Never.
Never.
It's the practice of coming back to your breath. The practice of coming back to your breath over and over. Your mind wanders. I mean, every good meditator says this. Your mind wanders and you come back. Your mind wanders and you come back to your breath, to your breath, to your breath. So this reminds me of meditation in a way. It's that you're focusing on a word, love. Mine for a long time was my life was easy. So I would get in my car when I commuted and I would say that, 100 times it took me to get to work. My life is easy. My life is easy. And it would totally get rid of all of the craziness that was going on in my head and would give me a positive thing to work on. And it would help me just stay calm and focused.
Yes.
It's a practice. I love that they call yoga a practice, and your husband is a yoga instructor, so he could talk a lot about that. And they call it a meditation practice as well, because you're never perfect at it. You're always practicing getting better. And so that idea of anyone thinking that they're ever going to completely get rid of the thoughts, that's not going to happen, but it's a practice of slowing yourself down a little bit, right?
And I think it's a practice as we practice that, because you are dead on right now. You are never going to eliminate the thoughts in your mind. Not going to happen. Yet, we can move them out of the forefront with the practice so that they become more what I call background noise, or we've learned to turn the volume down enough so that we can hear our own inner voice, our own intuition. I don't care what you call it, as I know Jessica doesn't either, but we live in this realm. There's a field of intelligence available to all of us at all times. You can call that God, you can call that universe, you can call that spirit, which most people will hear me refer to it. It's available there for everyone at all times. And that butterfly will land on you and give you that little intuitive, go here, do this, call here. But we got to be able to hear it.
Yes.
We've got to be able to hear it. And if we can't hear it because we have all this noise chatter in the front, you're not going to hear it. Plain and simple.
I do find this interesting when people say things to me like, oh, it doesn't speak to me, or God doesn't speak to me, or the spirit doesn't speak to me, or the intuition. And I'm like, really? So why don't you tell me about what your day looks like? Well, I get up at 7:45 or 8. I'm rushing out the door. I spend all day in meetings, doing the thing, whatever. I go to happy hour after work with friends. I go home and I watch TV until I go to bed, and I do it all over again. And I'm like, I don't know about you, but if I'm intuition or I'm the universe trying to drop an idea on you, you're pretty damn busy and you're pretty full. And granted, that comes from somebody who's very, very busy, but it's part of it's my life. I can't even function without my morning practice. And so I guess I wanted to talk about some practical things, because I'm guessing there's some people listening that are like, okay, this is fascinating. It's hitting a chord. It's resonating, whatever. One of the main ways that I do it, and then I'd love to get your feedback too, because I think there's the idea of what you're saying. You have to make room for it.
Yes.
And then the whole other side of it is then you have to trust it. So
yes.
Yes. Okay. So let's go back to how you even hear it, and then let's go to how you trust it. So the way that you hear it is you get quiet. And
yes.
My version is a morning practice. And I do this fairly religiously. And if I'm busy in some morning, I do it at some other time during the day. I also travel by myself often. And that to me is like non-negotiable in my life as well. And a big part for me of what you're talking about, I call it externalizing the crazy. So we all have the spinning feeling. Everybody I've ever talked to about this knows the spinning. You're spinning, you're making up a story, you're in fear, you're worrying. I'm a worrier. And so all the worry, and you're up here and you're spinning and you're creating something that doesn't even exist. Like you don't know what's going to happen, but you're creating this like horrible scenario. And journaling to me is a way for me to write out all my crazy, all the thoughts, all the stuff, all the whatever, the junk, it's just junk. I need to get it out of my head so I can clear it. And some mornings, that's what happens. I mean, I may write for 90 minutes. I mean, I just write and write and write and write and write and write, and I get done, and it's like I've had a good cry or something. I'm like, okay, I think I'm clear. I think I got rid of all of it. And so that to me, there's so many things about journaling that are fantastic, but one of them is externalizing the crazy. So what other tips do you have for people about either getting quiet or trusting their intuition or allowing? Right? It's allowing.
And I love the practice you talk about. Journaling is great. And in the artist's way, that's exactly what they call it, because you're draining it. You're emptying this. You're putting it all on paper and you're just letting it go so that then you can start, if we can drain, so to speak, all the sludge and we put it on paper, then the next stuff starts coming in.
Yes.
And it is so relevant. I'm glad that you brought this up because, okay, now we've created space, or we're practicing creating space. Now we have to begin to trust. Now, this is where the fun comes in, because you can play with this. Meaning, back in the day when we didn't have cell phones, the phone would ring, right? And we didn't have caller ID. And you could practice who's calling. Right? You can still do it. Keep your phone face down. Remove those special ringtones to tell you who it is. On most people, you can put it on your partner or something. And when it rings, before you pick it up, ask yourself, who is this?
Interesting.
And so you now begin to develop and practice this muscle. Right? And so, it's mom. And then just you pick up the phone and it's your mom. There you go. Or say mom says, Jess, I want to have a conversation with you tonight. And you can go, okay. And you can internally go in and go, what does mom want to talk about? So you asking yourself this, listen to your ping. Oh, she wants to talk about the holiday season. Then mom calls tonight. And what does she want to talk about? She wants to talk about the holiday season. Right, so we begin to practice playing with it. I also love, if you know where you're going, so say I'm coming to your house, but I'm not going to MapQuest it this time. I'm not going to be on Waves to tell me the right way. Instead, at each stop, I'm going to pay attention. Which way should I turn here?
Ooh, I don't know if I trust that in Seattle, but that's good.
Well, I used to live in a small town when I got to practice this, just so you know. But mine could be as simple as, do I take 405 or do I take I-5?
Yeah.
Okay, because those are the two main routes to get to you. Listen to what I hear and now MapQuest it and see what they tell me to do.
Oh, that's fun. So the other thing that's interesting about what you're saying is, when I was in graduate school, we would talk about how humans unknowingly, subconsciously, we look for supporting evidence.
Definitely.
And so I believe that once we start to listen to our intuition and then we lean in to trust it, then it happens. What am I trying to say? It's like it unfolds.
You begin to notice it.
Yes. And so people always ask me, because I just say my intuition never lies. I know now. If my intuition is up about somebody or something, it's fucking up. There is no way that I don't trust it. I sit down and have a conversation with whoever I need to have a conversation about, because my gut does not effing lie. It doesn't lie anymore. And it's because I can trust it that solidly because I've looked for supporting evidence. I know it to be true. And so I believe as human beings, we have to test it. And what you're saying is a fun and interesting and quirky and cute way to trust it that allows you to then trust it with big decisions.
And grow. And I want to say this, because this is one of the ways that I truly developed mine. And I'm known to learn backwards, and so this is no different. But I would get that little ping, that intuitive ping of, take your coat. And I'd go, I don't need my coat. So I'd get in the car and I'd leave. And next thing I know, I'm at an event and the temperature drops 20 degrees or it starts raining. And I would be like, oh my God, I got told to take my coat and I didn't listen to myself. Most of us, if you pause, you have that experience. It's what one of my main teachers would call the afterthought, right? You think you've packed all your stuff and all of a sudden you have one more thought, grab this, and you're like, I got everything. And you don't, and it's the one thing you need when you get there. Yeah. And so I say giggle at yourself and start becoming aware of it because you're getting it. Now it's learning to listen to it and to trust it.
Yep. And then, of course, to act on it.
Yeah.
This is so let me talk about this in terms of personality type, because this is really like firing me up, and it gets me back again where we started this podcast. I want to talk about the sensing and intuition real quick and then get back to like why I wanted to have this conversation, because this is so powerful. But every type has intuition. I want to be very clear about that. So sensors oftentimes will ask me like, oh God, I'm so bummed out that I don't have intuition. And I'm like, oh, is that because it's called sensing and intuition? So you think you don't have it? And yes, they think that's true. And nothing could be further from the truth. They just called it that for whatever reason, they being Myers-Briggs. So intuitives, we often, you and I are both very strong intuitives. We can trust our gut. And all people get this gut feeling. However, sensors have a different way oftentimes of trusting their intuition, and it's by facts. So they will read somebody's body language and be able to like have an opinion or have a gut intuition. You and I sense people's energy pretty quickly. Others will tell by the tone of their voice or how they rolled their eyes or how they're dressed, or they will walk into a home and notice certain things where you and I will trust the feel of a home. But sensors absolutely have intuition and they can absolutely trust their intuition. They just oftentimes do it in a different way. Again, where sensors are much more sixth sense focused. They're focused on the gut feeling or the energy of somebody, where sensors again are much more sensory, so that they can touch it, taste it, hear it, smell it, see it. It's still intuition. It's just in a more sensory way.
Yeah, I was going to say that they're bringing it in through their senses.
Yes.
Versus their sixth sense.
Yes.
Everyone has intuition, and everyone can develop their intuition and learn to trust their intuition.
Yeah.
There's no special person out there that you say, oh, they have these skills and I don't. Well, they have those skills, but they've probably spent time, energy, and effort developing those skills, or they came natural, meaning if a bodybuilder goes to the gym, they've spent time, energy, and effort developing those skills to look that way. So we can all develop our intuition regardless if we're sensing or intuitive.
Yeah. So I want to share, I don't want to totally put you on the spot because all of this is completely off the cuff and I know you're an introvert. So I'm going to go first and give you a chance to think about this question I'm about to ask you. And again, I'll start with this. What are the worst ramifications, if you will, of not listening to your intuition? So what I see as a former therapist and a coach are two things. One, is what we started talking about, giving away their power. They just give their power away. Because often somebody said this, and I don't know who's first started saying this, but what if you did know? You know, people just always say, I don't know. What if you did know? What if you did know what you wanted to do with your business? Or what if you did know what you wanted to do in your relationship? Or what you freaking wanted to eat for dinner? Like, I don't know is not an answer. So I think there's something that you're giving away. You're giving away your power. And then I think the other really negative consequence I see about people not trusting or not listening to their intuition is that they second guess everything. They get into analysis paralysis instead of just making a step forward. I am a firm believer that there are no wrong decisions. I am way more of a person that no decision is the worst decision. There's no wrong decision. You just need to make a damn decision. Take a step. It's like the whole choose your own adventure book. Like, the book is over if you don't make a decision. Like, how fun is that? That's not fun. The fun of choose your own adventure was, I'm going to make a decision and lean into it. And not trusting your intuition, I believe, is analysis paralysis. Again, especially with as crazy as the world is right now, with all of the competing information. I mean, I get this from my clients all the time. I'm like, oh, I listened to like 6 different podcasts and they said 6 different things. I'm like, of fucking course they did, because they're different people and they have different opinions. Everybody's got an opinion. I mean, what's the saying? Like, everyone's got an opinion like they have an asshole. Like, everybody has an opinion. We have to be more decisive. And I think one of the ways that we start being more decisive, if we just turn some of that shit off and get quiet and listen to the messages that are being sent to us. And everybody can get those messages. You're not part of the club. You're not part of the club. You're just not listening. So tell us what you think are the worst consequences of not listening.
I think you nailed it. We give our power away to another. Plain and simple.
Yep.
And
another being a therapist, a coach, your
partner, your parent, anyone.
Yep.
You're giving it away. When someone says, do this, it's not that won't serve you, because it might be exactly what you need to do, but you need to go sit with that and know that for yourself.
Yep.
So here is, I would say, one of the most eye-opening teachings one of my teachers gave to me. Is I was in mentorship with her for probably 2-3 years, every 3 weeks. Today, her schedule is so packed you can get in once a year. Like, I had the privilege of working with her very often. And one day during our mentorship session, she sat there and flat out told me I did not love myself. And I left that mentorship pissed. I was pissed. And I spent the next 3 weeks sitting with that, journaling with that, walking with that. And I came in on our next appointment and I said, I was pissed at you when I left here. And it was probably the first time I was like pissed, angry. And I said, you told me I did not love myself. I said, and that is false. I love myself. And she goes, I know, but I needed you to know it to that degree.
Oh, snap. Holy shit.
It was like, because for a moment I paused and doubted. She went, and she knew exactly what I was going to go do.
And she trusted her intuition to say that to you in the moment, which is like another like, oh, snap moment.
Yep. And I was pissed. And I came in with such certainty and confirmation and confidence. She goes, I know you love yourself. She goes, I needed you to know that. And I was like, fuck you. I don't know that I can say that right now, but I did. That's exactly what I said to her.
And she probably like, loved it. I mean,
she did.
Like, yeah, damn, I did my job. Like, she should have been dang proud of herself in that moment.
Because everyone has an input, or as you said, opinion about how you should do something.
Yep.
And it's not that it won't serve you. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you need to take that information and you need to go have your due diligence process with it to see, is that true for me? Because here's a practice I practice, and I started practicing this when I met you. This was a practice I was doing when I met you back in eWomen. Instead of that to-do list that we can all write down every day about the 10, 20, 30 things that we think we should do, I had a practice for 3 years, and part of my morning practice is, Spirit, what would you have me do today?
That's good.
And I would sit and listen and write that down. Wow. And some days it was nothing. Some days it was, call this person. And I had a list of 30 things that I think I should do, or what people told me I should do. But Spirit, that intuition was telling me 1 or 2 things. And I did that, and it was always amazing, like, call this one person, and that person led to X, Y, Z. And I was always like, you've got to be kidding me.
I have to comment on this because this is super up for me right now. And you know this because we just, talked for 4 hours on Thursday night about this. So as a very strong J, and all the J's listening, we're the control freaks. We're the ones who are doers, not beers. It is our comfort zone to be in control and to be in the doing. So what you were saying right now is very, very uncomfortable for all J's, and it's half of the population. And what I have learned, and this is a fight all the time. I was just telling this story to my girl boss group this morning at 9 a.m. that when I was in Maui, I was trying very hard to be open to what you were just saying. Spirit, tell me what I should be feeling today. And so I was trying to focus on how I wanted to feel in my business. And within moments, I started crafting how much money and what it looks like. And this is what this group could look like. And here's the details and here's the launch. And I stopped myself and I was like, this is like an addiction. I mean, I am over controlling. I'm literally asking God in the universe. I'm in Maui. I'm in my soul place. I'm asking God to give me some downloads. And then moments later, I'm overwriting it. And I mean, I always joke, God and I have a funny relationship because I think he's just up there going, really? Really, Jessica? I mean, shit, come back when you're ready. Like, I just think he's just like, girlfriend, come on now. And it's like, we have to check ourselves. First they say, whoever they is, the first step of change is awareness. You have to realize your J-ness, your own addiction to control, your own addiction to busy, your addiction to want to create versus being. And I've been talking about that for years, that the P personality type is much more being and the J's are much more comfortable doing. However, that's the only part of the car that doesn't exist in a balance. Doesn't exist in don't do stuff you suck at. You actually have to have a balance. That's why I tattooed the word B on my arm. I have no other tattoos and it says B because as a strong doer, I have to remember to allow God and the universe to bring me ideas. I have to stop the constant control of what's next, where are we going, tell me more, and I watch this in my clients, like this incessant need for what's next. And I'm like, I want to just say, like, take a breath and get quiet and trust yourself and perfect it and just trust the process.
And listen to what God, Spirit, Source, Universe, guides you to do.
Yeah.
Versus us telling them what we're going to do. And I want you to think about this because I know this has happened for you because it has hands down happened for me. But how many times have you had an idea and you were like, oh, like that butterfly landed.
Yep.
And you went and shared it with somebody and they said, oh no, that's not going to work. You should do this first. And you abandon your own intuition.
Oh, I mean, come on, girl. So many times.
Yeah.
So many times.
That's
Everyone
the piece.
listening is like, so many times, sister, so many times.
No, yep, you have to do it this way. No, you can't start there. You got to do it. And it's like, no, you can start there. Listen and trust where they're guiding you.
Yeah. And who knows better than God in the universe? I mean, again, you have to be somewhat of a believer in spirit, in God, in the universe to trust this. But even if you're not, here's the test. Do it once, and when you get the right answer, done. Because it's a fucking thing. It's a thing. And the first time it happens, you're going to go, oh my God, it just happened. I just got the download. I got everything. How many people have had the, I call it, it's literally this.
The download.
You go, holy shit. I just got it. And it notoriously, you're on a walk, you're in nature, you're in the shower, you're quiet, you're doing something, but you're listening. And that download is no joke.
And when you receive that, yes, sit with it. But now that's the step you're being guided to take action on. So listen, and I love the word actually inspired, because I think when you come from a place of being, you're inspired to act. That's what I want you to do. Don't go check it out with 10 people or, oh, my coach says not to do that. You just got it from the fucking coach. Yeah. Listen.
The coach.
The coach.
Yeah.
That can see your whole divine path.
Preach, sister, preach.
Listen to that, because, and if you've never trusted that, just trust it one time and watch what happens, because magic happens. And you'll be like, that was so easy. That was so simple. Where did all those people? Because you were guided to do that. And it didn't look like your little coach told you to do.
Yeah. Again, I believe you do both. I believe you need to learn how to build a list. You need to learn a funnel. You need to learn social media. Like, there's things you need to learn, yet exactly what you said, we give away our power by letting it override us. And so there is the both. And then here's one of the last things I want to say is when we ignore the signs, like, okay, I mean, I talk about this all the time, but when I was married, I would pray all the time. Okay, God, I need a sign that it's the time to leave the husband. I need the sign. And then he would give me a very clear sign. And then I would not do the thing because it's hard to leave your marriage. And then I would start praying again. Okay. I got it. I saw that one. I ignored it. I need another one. I probably was up to like 8. I mean, if I'm being honest, like, God was really had my back. Like, you are not supposed to be in this relationship, sister, because here's the 8th one. I'm sick of your shit, Jessica, but you need to listen up. And I mean, finally, I was like, okay. You know what's interesting too? Is towards the end, there was no sign. There was no sign anymore, because it was just like, okay, just do the gosh forsaken thing. Just do the thing. But I think it's interesting when we literally ask for a sign and we get it and then we ignore it. So I'm not judging. It took me like 8 times. Again, I always say that, like, there's no judgment, because my game was a disaster for a long time. But yes, both things. People can help you, but we've got to learn to trust our intuition again by getting quiet. Okay. Anything else in closing? Anything burning for you? I see you're taking notes like a great podcast student. Like, anything you want to say before we close?
You know, I love that this piece that you just talked about, asking for a sign, and it doesn't need to be about leaving our marriage, although it can be. And it can also be a piece of developing your intuition. And I have a client that's doing this right now, and I love it. She's like, you know, Jeni, today I asked for Spirit, God, to give me a sign, and I asked to see an owl today. And she goes, I take the same walk every day, but today there was an owl statue on it that has probably always been there, but I haven't seen it. So you can ask for signs.
I agree.
And begin to notice the signs that are showing up in your life. If you constantly see same numbers, or you constantly see a butterfly or a dragonfly, or you're like, wow, that's the 3rd deer I saw today. Just pay attention. Like, the universe, God is always in conversation with you. Always. Yeah. Always, always, always. Are we listening? That's our part of the equation.
And what's interesting about, I could not agree more. I 1,000% agree. A sign, literally. I mean, people have been like hit by a sign before that's like the thing, and they're like, that's the sign, apparently. But in this day and age, you know, our phones are listening to us. Instagram is listening to us. All the things are listening to us. Yet we are heads down. I mean, people are walking in the streets with their heads.
They bump into you.
They bump into you. And I, by the way, I will not move. If you ever see me in the street and you're on your phone, I'm not moving. If you bump into me, I will let you know, excuse me, but I will not move. But again, that total side note. But we are bombarded with this. So how can we even see the signs when our head is in our phone and our phone is listening to us? I don't believe I don't believe your phone is going to give you the sign because they're listening to you. So you think Mykonos or whatever is a sign. They're listening to your conversations. That's not a sign. You have to look up. You have to be in conversation. You have to be walking in nature. You have to notice that pole that has the fucking owl on it that's probably been there every single day. Come on. Shit like that freaks me out. That is practicing all the things we've been talking about. Asking for it, practicing it, and then being open to receiving it. And open means open your eyes, open your soul, open your energy field, open all the things.
Yep. It's asking for a sign. I'm going to share one that's really intense for me, but it's really real. And this is how the universe is communicating with you all the times. I had a female doctor appointment. And most of us have experienced this, but it's come back abnormal. So I had my second one came back abnormal. So I was going in for the third, and we were doing, I can't remember what it's called, but they do a little biopsy. And I remember sitting in the doctor's office, and I was just praying, speaking to spirit and just saying, let me know this is going to be okay. And I said, Mom, because my mom has passed on, I was like, just let me know this is going to be okay. And I looked up, and I kid you not, the poster in front of me was a picture of a bird, and it was done by an artist called Sue Ellen.
Oh, my God.
My mom's name and middle name were Sue Ellen. And I sat there and just started crying because I was like, it's okay. And she's right here with me. Like, I'm okay. Like, God speaks to you through music. How many times have you had a prayer and then you get in the car and you hear the exact words you need to hear? Or you flip on a movie and the movie is the answer to your prayer. Or you see a sign in the mall or a license plate, an answer to what you just asked. Yep. We just have to be open to listening and receiving and paying attention. It's there all the time.
And all of that comes down to getting quiet and paying attention.
Making space.
This whole conversation was about.
Yeah.
All right, sweetheart. I think we could talk about this for another hour, but that's a really long podcast. So let's wrap this up. It's also almost 5:30. And for the first time, it's dark. It's dark. We did daylight savings time this past weekend. And wow, it's dark out my window.
It is.
So, darling, tell people how they can find you. How can they follow you, your gorgeous wisdom, your gorgeous self? How can they follow you?
Thank you. They can see my latest offerings on my website, and that's www.lightbydawn, or my name, Jeni Dahn. And you can also follow me on Instagram, and my handle is Light by Dawn. And that there you'll also see my latest offerings, and I also give teachings and all that fun stuff. You know that. Yep. So track me down, and you can contact me through either of those means.
Awesome. She does workshops, retreats, going to Tulum, has one coming up next year, the following year, does private coaching, all the things. So she's your real gift. So thank you for doing this on the last minute. I know that and that was what it was. My intuition was like, we need to have a conversation about this so other people can hear about it, because we were in my living room with just me, you, and a friend. And so we needed to have this as a bigger conversation. So thank you. I love you and I appreciate you. And everybody, thank you for listening.
Thank you, my dear.
From the bottom of my heart, truly, thank you so much for listening. I know that you have a ton of options, and the fact that you are taking time to listen to the Front Seat Life podcast means absolutely everything to me. If you're interested in learning more about the Front Seat Life way of life in the community, there's a couple ways that you can do that. First is always starting with your personality assessment tool. It's available on my website at jessicabutts.com. It's totally free, and it will help you figure out your personality type so you'll have some idea of what we're talking about. Next is, if you're interested in hiring me for a keynote or some coaching or strategy days or the fabulous and amazing Front Seat Life community, you can find out all about all of that at jessicabutts.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.